So, here we are again with the second story. This story, like many other, or rather, like all stories, is a wonderful story by itself, just as a story, just as a narration. But it also entails some hidden factors which are very important to us in our lives, and it pays to give heed to those. So, this story starts off again with the usual lovely elements that a story has: a king, a kingdom, and a prince. I mean, what can get better, right? So, there was this kingdom which was ruled by a very, very generous, capable, and compassionate king. He was also very just and very fair. So, most people in his kingdom were very happy under him. He had I think in today's language, he had a good family life, also good private life, in the sense that he had a son, a very capable, obedient, intelligent probably also son, whom he, as a good father, as a good parent, he told him, you have to first learn how to be a good king, because that's what he was going to be in the future. Supposed to be just like a profession. That's what he was going to get into later on. No? So he was taught and put through rigorous training for horse riding, swords, weapons, arrows, and everything, bows and arrows, shooting, and everything, the works. And the prince, a very diligent student, I suppose, a very sincere fellow, he went through all this knowing that this was for his good, for his future, something that was very, very necessary if he had to succeed on the battlefield, just like he would have to succeed in the administration of the kingdom. So, this is what he did. He soon finished all his training and was an adept soldier who could face any enemy, coupled with his own bravery and courage, and probably vanquish most of the enemies. So much so that his subjects could have trusted him that he would protect them and the borders of the kingdom. Then the father once, which I like in this story, the father asks for just a little talk with his son. And in the father and son talk, the father says, you know what, son? That you have proven to be a good student and a good soldier is a very creditable thing. But I would very much wish for you to become something else, in the sense, learn some other talent which has nothing to do with you becoming a great king. So the son said, why? I have done all this. I'm a good soldier. I'll probably be a very good king. So where is the necessity of me learning something that doesn't have to do anything with running the kingdom? So the father, however, insisted that he learned something else, and they both decided that he will learn to weave cloth. Now, in modern days, in today's day, probably say a hobby or something like that, no? Something else for his me time in today's jargon. So anyway, the prince learnt, and soon he could weave the most beautiful, exquisite cloth with exquisite designs, color combinations, and the guy excelled there too. So the king was very happy, and the son also was really happy that he has learnt an extra skill. One day, he probably went hunting, or maybe not, I don't know. He probably went into the forest just to have a walk. And as he went deeper and deeper into the forest, he lost contact with his soldiers, bodyguards who had accompanied him there. And he was ambushed and taken prisoner by some natives in the forest who were probably extremely poor. They didn't have any money, no means of livelihood in the forest. So they had this great idea that they would probably um, kidnap this prince and then ask for a big ransom from the king. So, having that in mind, they kidnapped him, ambushed him, kidnapped him, and kept him there and sent a messenger to the king saying, "We want so much, so much, so much, so much money." So, but the prince was not only a good soldier and a good cloth weaver, he was also probably a very good diplomat. And he got along very well with his captors. No, not the Stockholm Syndrome, but he really got along very well with them as human beings. And he told them, you know what? If you go and pressurize the king and tell him, give me so much money, or we won't leave your son, or we will kill your son, that puts him on the offensive immediately. So instead of that, why don't you say, we are presenting you with a lovely cloth of gold, which I will weave for you, and ask for the money. It'll look like you have earned this money, and being a cloth of gold, you'll get a lot of money. So I don't know from where, but those guys got him the thread of gold, and he weaved a beautiful cloth of gold, folded it exquisitely, and gave it to these forest people and told them, okay, go to the king and tell him, this is what we have woven. Please, can you give us, we want to sell it to you. It will be a decoration, a very nice decoration for your palace. They agreed. They went to the king, and the king was very surprised to see what beautifully it was woven. But the minute he saw that, he knew that his son had woven it. He knew the exquisite artistry and craftsmanship that went into it. And when he opened it, the king saw that his son had drawn a map of where he was held hostage, and had woven it into the cloth. So, yeah, sort of a betrayal, no doubt. But the king immediately ordered that the map be followed and the soldiers be sent, and that his son be saved and rescued and got back to the kingdom. And that's how the prince came back. But the prince also insisted that the village people should be getting back their money, because after all, poor things, they were very much ravaged by poverty. So everybody being happy everywhere. Moral of the story? No, everything doesn't have to have a moral, and one does not always have to look at a moral. But it sometimes tells us that having some extra talents, hobbies in today's language, might just be very profitable, might just be just beneficial. Not might be, probably are. They have different roles to play, and who knows, might even save your life one day, or your mental health one day. It always helps to know something else other than your what your profession demands you to have. So this was a story I learnt and heard from my grandmother, and yes, probably inspired me to have many hobbies. I wonder what it is, but I hope you enjoyed today's story too.